Hello Summoners and welcome to another episode of ProGuides Best Champions to Main, now on patch 12.7. The champs we pick for this series are strong picks with high performance but have low ban rates and are unlikely to be nerfed anytime soon. They are reliable picks for climbing and are worth investing your time in. We also have a series that covers the most broken contested picks in each role, so be sure you're subbed to the channel so you don't miss out when we post those as well. We'll be starting things out in the top lane with Quinn. Somehow Riot hasn't reversed her buff a couple of patches ago, even with her being pretty close to hitting a 54% win rate. The thing is, she was already doing well before those buffs. Maybe there's a Quinn skin in the making and this is all just getting ready for that. Either way, she's really strong and is someone you should consider picking up if you like to win lane hard and use that lead early to affect the rest of the map, something she easily does with her ult. Later in the game, your playstyle should generally be to shove a lane, then use ult to roam and make a pick elsewhere. This keeps you from dying to ganks while trying to hit an enemy tower, all while opening your team to take objectives once you're up a man on the enemy team. If you're tired of being stuck in your current elo, the first step to climbing is fixing your champion pool. That's why we make these videos, so you can find the right champ or champions for you. After you decide on what you're gonna play, you then have to learn how to play it right. It can take many games to learn a new champion, but you don't have to spend days and weeks doing it alone. Our top tier coaches over on ProGuides.com can help you figure out exactly what you need to work on. They're available 24/7, so it's never a bad time to come try one out. I promise there's at least one that specializes in exactly what you're looking for. These guys have spent years reaching the top of the ladder, so why wouldn't you want to steal all their solo queue tips and tricks? Find the link to our website down in the description box below. Now let's get back on topic, shall we? The second top laner we have for you is Sejuani. While this may not be the role you normally see Sejuani in, she actually does a lot better here. In the jungle, champion strength comes from one of three major factors: clear speed, ability to bully the enemy jungler, and gank effectiveness. Sejuani's kit makes her a good champion overall, but she doesn't really excel in any of those specific categories. Taking Sejuani to the top lane allows you to use her scrappy trading style to go in for short, surprisingly bursty trades on your opponent as they try to farm. It's not like the jungle, where someone can just walk away to avoid a fight. If someone wants to get CS, they are forced to be in range of you. Also, being top lane means you'll have more levels and XP than junglers get, making you a lot more formidable in teamfights. Our final top laner for today is Warwick. Warwick has one of the lowest skill floors of any champion league. Almost all of what you'll be doing is right-clicking your opponent and using Q every time it's up. The hardest part is just hitting his ult, but since you'll already be in melee range fighting to the death most of the time, that's pretty easy. Plus, you have your fears to make landing it even easier. The only real mechanical skill expression with this champ comes from using his Q to follow dashes. Aside from that, the rest is just battling your opponent into fights they can't win. Since Warwick heals more the lower he gets, this is pretty easy to pull off, especially if you're running a tricky barrier to bait your foe in. Taking a look now at our junglers, the first pick is Talon. Now that people are building him lethality, he's actually doing super well again. You'll generally go for the first strike page we have here, but if the enemy team has 2 or more tanky champs, it may be a good idea to go for a Conqueror page for better extended fighting. Also remember to pick up Serpent's Fang if the enemy team has any shielders. For the early game, don't be shy to fight skirmishes as long as you have even numbers. Talon does a lot of damage if you can activate his passive on an enemy, and that, coupled with Ignite, means you can almost 100-0 enemies on your own, even in the first few levels. So if you can fight with an ally that has CC, you'll basically be guaranteed to blow up an enemy. Our second jungler is Vi. She's a strong early duelist, but she doesn't exactly have the tools to force people to fight. So most of the time, your goal early on is to power farm up to 6. Once you have that, you should be netting kills every time her ult is up, as long as you're pathing to the right lanes, of course. One other big strength she has is her ability to solo dragons early. While it is a bit predictable, most people honestly still don't bother checking, so you can likely get away with soloing dragon on spawn. Our third jungler for today is Skarner. If you watch our different meta series videos often, you probably know that he's one of our most suggested champs. But that's because he's still so heavily slept on, even after being such a good champ for so long. I'm talking months or even multiple seasons at this point of hovering between a 52 and 55% win rate. That's just kind of insane. He's able to get incredibly consistent results with his ult, giving you the ability to make game-winning picks without having to worry about any tough skill shots or anything like that. The only counterplay is QSS, but it's not like every enemy champ is going to buy that. Even if you're just ulting their support, a pick is a pick and can lead to a free dragon, Baron, or even ending the game. Next up for the mid lane, let's start with Neeko. She has a well-rounded laning phase with good wave clear and a bursty combo for harassing your opponent, and even good all-in potential after level 6. The build we have here is for one-shotting people, hence the triple magic pen item core. But you can flex her build to suit other needs for different games. For example, if you'd rather focus on utility, you could buy Everfrost and Zhonya's as your core. This gives you better lockdown and the ability to engage fights. Another really good mid laner at the moment is Kennen. With how insanely strong his skirmishing and teamfighting is post 6, he does well in many situations, but his best matchups are against melee mid laners. Versus these foes, anytime they try to go in, you can instantly stun them with a quick EWQ combo and retreat back to safety. Or if it's post 6, you can just turn the fight on them and kill them pretty easily. Since most laners should be respecting your kill potential, you can turn your attention to other lanes. Usually the best play is to dive either top or bottom with your jungler for some very easy kills. Our last pick for the mid lane is Echo. While most assassins are generally champs that need to snowball hard early to do well, Echo is the opposite. You'd actually just rather have a slow-paced early game with a focus on farming up to your 2-item spike. Unless a roam is absolutely guaranteed to have a payout, you'd rather just use the time to take a plate or just go for a reset. Then, once you have both Rocket Belt and Lichbane, you spike massively and can start forcing plays. One thing you probably noticed about our build is that it doesn't include Zhonya's, which a lot of people seem to think is absolutely crucial to Echo. The truth is, if you're good enough at him, you don't need it in the vast majority of your games. You should be building to do as much damage as possible so that you can one-shot squishies with a single combo. Your ult should provide all the safety that you need. Honestly, I think Zhonya's as a whole is a sort of an overbuilt item. That isn't to say the item isn't strong, it definitely is really good, but only when you actually need it. It shouldn't just be a default item on every AP champ. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What item or rune do you find overrated? Another one for me is Crown of the Shattered Queen. The item is no doubt super good when the game calls for it, but I cringe when I see people buy it when the enemy team has poke that can easily get rid of it. But that's just me, and we want to hear from you, so let us know what you think down in the comments below. Now, let's get back on track. Moving things down to the bot lane, the first pick we have is Karthus. Despite being one of the very best performing champs in bot lane for at least 3 seasons now, Karthus is still basically ignored enough to make this list. He has the wave clear to neutralize the laning phase and scaling that beats any other hyper carry in the role. Plus, the goal is literally to die and do as much damage in your passive form as you can, so you don't have to worry about relying on a support to keep you alive in teamfights. Our second bot lane pick is Ashe. Despite being labeled a utility pick, Ashe isn't here just to be some sort of secondary support. She's also a really strong lane bully and has the damage that can almost rival a hyper carries. Honestly, it's really kind of surprising that she isn't more popular considering how well-rounded her kit is. Even her build can be flexed depending on the enemy comp. For example, you can go Shield Bow and Wits End to counter assassins and mages, or Blade of the Ruin King with Ginzus to absolutely shred tanks. The last of our bot lane carry picks is Xayah. While a full crit build would give you better raw DPS later in the game, the lethality build gives you a much better early game. The main source of your damage with this build is using your QE combo to poke people hard, so it's also much safer later on, since you don't need to stand in auto range to actually dish out the majority of your damage. Now, to round out our list with some supports, we'll start with Maokai. After some nerfs to his saplings, the meta for support Maokai shifted to running Aftershock and rushing Dead Man's Plate to focus on making picks with his point-and-click route. But the thing is, Emax Maokai with Comet and an offensive build is still really strong and is actually the better performing build on him. Laning phase is simple enough. Spam saplings in the bushes to gain control of them, and if a squishy foe gets too close, flash W and knock them into the sapling. If your AD carry is in range, this is almost always a guaranteed kill. Out of lane, you should be spamming saplings into every bush you can, both to serve as wards and landmines that make it impossible for the enemy team to traverse the map without losing half of their HP. Think of them as tea mushrooms on demand. Our second support is Janna. Despite her still being one of the best performing champs in the role, while also being one of the very easiest, Janna has fallen off pretty hard in terms of popularity. But all the better if you want to abuse her, since that just means she isn't going to be contested. The key to making Janna an OP support is to not play her like the stereotypical enchanter main. It's pretty common to see supports that sit back behind the wave, trying their hardest to be a shield bot, but you're wasting the entire point of her kit. You should be moving up, harassing the enemy champs, and using your Q to disengage any attempts they make at going in. Positioning more forward is even more important in teamfights. If you're all the way in the back of the fight, there's no way you're going to use your Q and ult to stop enemy divers from reaching your carries. Finishing off our list, we have Syndra. While she's pretty awful in both mid and bot lane right now as a carry, as a support, she actually does super well. She provides a lot of lane presence with her Q, giving good poke and pushing power, while also having big bursty trades when you land her full combo. Post 6, she can almost 100 to 0 squishing enemy laners if you land everything, so as long as your AD carry provides at least a few autos, you should be able to kill your foes every time your ult is up. Out of lane, you'll just keep trying to blow up the squishy enemies that you can get in range of while also using your E to provide at least a little bit of peel for your AD carry. And that is it for our top 3 champs to main on 12.7. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to sub so you never miss out on our meta guides and so you're always in the loop on what the best picks are. Remember to let us know what item or rune you think is overrated down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where you can discuss League further or just hang out and be part of the community. I can't wait to see you guys back for the next video. But until then, good luck on the Rift, and may the LP gods smile down upon you.